The air hung heavy with the heat of the Mediterranean summer. June 24, 1991, dawned like any other day in the affluent neighborhood of Mougins, France. Behind the manicured hedges of a luxurious villa, a scene of unimaginable horror awaited. Ghislaine Marshal, a wealthy widow, was found lifeless in her basement. Her body, bearing multiple stab wounds, lay sprawled near the boiler room. The discovery sent shockwaves through the tranquil community, shattering its peaceful facade. The scene was chaotic. Police swarmed the property, their faces grim as they worked diligently to secure the area. Every corner of their villa was meticulously combed for clues, hoping to shed light on the events that led to this brutal crime. Amongst the bloodstains and overturned furniture, one piece of evidence stood out with chilling prominence. Scrawled across the basement floor in what appeared to be the victim's own blood was a message. Two haunting words, etched in crimson, pointed an accusing finger. Omar Martour, Omar killed me. The name, stark against the cold concrete, belonged to Ghislaine Marshal's gardener, Omar Radad. Ghislaine Marshal, 65, was a woman of considerable wealth and privilege. Widowed for several years, she lived a solitary life in her opulent villa. Her husband, a successful businessman, had left her financially secure, free to indulge in her passions for gardening and art. Her days were typically spent tending to her beloved roses or browsing antique shops in the nearby villages. Though she enjoyed the finer things in life, Ghislaine was known for her reserved nature. She kept a small circle of friends, preferring quiet evenings at home to lavish social gatherings. Her son, who lived abroad, visited infrequently. To the outside world, Ghislaine Marshal seemed to lead a charmed existence. However, behind the facade of wealth and elegance, a darkness had descended, culminating in a tragic and violent end. Her murder sent shockwaves through the community, leaving many to wonder who could commit such a heinous act against a woman seemingly so unassuming. The investigation into her death would unearth whispers of hidden affairs, financial disputes, and simmering resentments, painting a more complex picture of the seemingly quiet life Ghislaine Marshal led. Omar Radad, a Moroccan immigrant in his late 20s, became the prime suspect. He had been employed by Ghislaine Marshal for several years, tending to her gardens and performing odd jobs around the villa. Known for his quiet demeanor and strong work ethic, Omar was considered a reliable and trustworthy employee. He lived a simple life, sharing a modest apartment with his wife and young children in a nearby town. His world revolved around providing for his family, his days filled with the rhythms of manual labor. The accusation of murder seemed unfathomable to those who knew him, a cruel twist of fate that cast a long shadow over his life. Omar maintained his innocence from the outset. He readily admitted to being at the villa on the day of the murder, but insisted he had left hours before Ghislaine's estimated time of death. He claimed to have traveled to Toulon, a coastal city several miles away, to celebrate Eid al-Adha with his family. His alibi, supported by several witnesses, placed him far from the crime scene during the crucial hours. Despite his insistence, the finger of suspicion, pointed by the blood-soaked message, remained firmly fixed on Omar. The message, Omar Martour, became the focal point of the investigation. Was it a dying declaration scrawled in a moment of desperation by Ghislaine Marshal, or was it a cunning fabrication staged to frame an innocent man? Handwriting experts were called upon, their analysis scrutinizing every curve and stroke of the letters, searching for clues to its authenticity. The results were inconclusive. Some experts believed the handwriting bore similarities to Ghislaine's, while others argued that the style and spelling errors were inconsistent with her usual writing. The debate raged on, fueling the flames of uncertainty that surrounded the case. Adding to the complexity, investigators discovered traces of plaster and fiberglass on Omar's clothing. These materials matched those used in recent renovations at Ghislaine's villa. While this discovery seemed to link Omar to the crime scene, it was far from conclusive. As a gardener, it was not unusual for him to have come into contact with such materials during his work. The physical evidence, like the ghostly message, offered tantalizing clues, but no definitive answers. Section 5. A lack of motive. As the investigation progressed, a glaring omission emerged. A clear motive. Why would Omar Radad, a seemingly mild-mannered gardener with no history of violence, murder his employer? The prosecution struggled to present a compelling reason for Omar to commit such a brutal act. Theories swirled like dust devils in the courtroom. Some speculated about a possible financial dispute, suggesting Omar may have killed Ghislaine for money. However, no evidence of stolen funds or any history of financial disagreements between them was ever found. Others whispered about a possible romantic entanglement, suggesting a love affair gone wrong. Yet again, there was no concrete evidence to support this claim. The absence of a clear motive cast a long shadow over the prosecution's case, leaving many to question whether they had the right man. Section 6, a verdict marred in controversy. The trial of Omar Radad became a media sensation. The courtroom was packed with journalists, eager to report on every twist and turn of the case that had captivated the nation. Public opinion was sharply divided, with some convinced of Omar's guilt, while others vehemently maintained his innocence. In 1994, after weeks of intense scrutiny and deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict. Omar Radad was found guilty of the murder of Gizan Marshal and sentenced to 18 years in prison. The verdict sent shockwaves through the courtroom and ignited a firestorm of controversy that continues to burn to this day. Critics of the verdict argued that the prosecution had failed to present a convincing case. They pointed to the lack of a clear motive, the inconclusive handwriting analysis, and the circumstantial nature of the physical evidence. The prosecution, they argued, had relied heavily on prejudice and cultural stereotypes, painting Omar as a violent outsider incapable of integrating into French society. The verdict, they believed, was a miscarriage of justice, a stain on the French legal system. Section 7, a glimmer of hope, appeals and release. Undeterred by the guilty verdict, Omar Radad continued to maintain his innocence from his prison cell. His lawyers, fueled by a belief in his innocence and the hope of righting what they saw as a grave injustice, launched a series of appeals. The case became a legal battleground, with each side presenting their arguments with unwavering conviction. In 1996, after years of legal wrangling, a glimmer of hope emerged. President Jacques Chirac, responding to mounting public pressure and acknowledging the doubts surrounding the case, granted Omar Radad a partial pardon. His sentence was significantly reduced, paving the way for his eventual release. 2 years later, in 1998, Omar Radad walked out of prison a free man. However, his release was far from a victory. He was not exonerated of the crime, the shadow of suspicion still clinging to him. The question of Ghislain Marshal's true murderer remained unanswered, the mystery continuing to haunt him and those who followed his case. Section 8. Whispers of doubt, alternative theories. As the years passed, the Omar Radad case remained a subject of intense fascination and debate. The official narrative, the one presented in the courtroom, continued to be challenged by those who believed in Omar's innocence. Alternative theories emerged, offering different perspectives on the events that led to Ghislain Marshal's death. Some whispered about a possible suicide, suggesting that Ghislaine, struggling with unknown personal demons, had taken her own life. They pointed to the unusual phrasing of the message, arguing that it did not read like a genuine cry for help. Others speculated about a lover's quarrel, suggesting that Ghislaine had been murdered by a jealous partner, her death staged to look like a robbery gone wrong. The whispers of doubt extended beyond the confines of Ghislaine's personal life. Some even suggested a possible connection to the Solar Temple cult, a secretive group linked to several ritualistic murders in France around the same time. While no concrete evidence ever surfaced to support these alternative theories, they served as a constant reminder of the many unanswered questions that lingered over the case. Section 9. Justice Undone, the Aftermath. Despite his release from prison, Omar Radad's fight for justice was far from over. He remained determined to clear his name, to prove to the world that he was not a murderer. His case became a symbol of the flaws in the French justice system, a rallying cry for those who believed he had been wrongfully convicted. In the years that followed, his lawyers continued to pursue every legal avenue, seeking to uncover new evidence that could definitively prove his innocence. The case was reopened in 2001, offering a flicker of hope that the truth might finally be revealed. However, despite their best efforts, no new conclusive evidence emerged. The Omar Radad case remains unsolved, a chilling reminder of the enduring power of doubt and the elusive nature of justice. He continues to live under the shadow of suspicion, his life forever marked by the events of that fateful summer day in 1991. The question of who killed Ghislaine Marshal and why remains a haunting mystery, a puzzle that may never be fully solved.